What's that?
Can you repeat that? We just started the live stream.
Can we repeat what?
Just start from the top.
Okay. I'm going to start again with. So I just met with the Vice President of El Salvador. I'm grateful for the meeting. The president is out of the country at this time. So I appreciated the chance to talk to the Vice President about the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Esta mañana estuve platicando con el vicepresidente de la República, el señor Ulloa. Estuvimos y aprecio muchísimo el hecho de que me haya recibido porque el presidente está fuera del país en este momento. Y estuvimos de acuerdo en que vamos a hablar sobre el caso de Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
And we started the conversation on a point of agreement, which is that our two countries should work together to crack down on transnational gangs like MS-13.
Y comenzamos en un punto de acuerdo en que ambos países debemos de trabajar muy duro para poder romper con el crimen transnacional como lo que son MS.
And I told the Vice President that for over 2 decades, I have worked in my state of Maryland to crack down on MS-13.
Y yo le comentaba al señor vicepresidente que durante los últimos 20 años yo he estado trabajando para poder acabar con la pandilla del MS-13.
And look forward to further efforts to make sure that we crack down on violent gangs.
Y estamos haciendo todos los esfuerzos posibles para terminar con las pandillas violentas.
I think that's important to underscore because the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia does not have to do with MS-13.
Y creo que es muy importante que nosotros establezcamos esto porque el caso de Kilmar Abrego García no tiene que ver con eso.
If you listen to President Trump and the Trump administration, you would think that the U.S. courts have found that Mr. Abrego Garcia is part of MS-13, but in fact, they have not found that. In fact, recently a U.S. federal court judge said that the Trump administration did not have evidence to support the claim that he had ever been part of MS-13.
Así que si ustedes escuchan al señor Trump o a su administración, pareciera que están diciendo que el señor Abrego García sí es parte de la familia de los, pero sin embargo, el juez federal de nuestro país ha confirmado que el señor Abrego García no formó parte de.
In fact, Mr. Abrego Garcia is legally in the United States.
De hecho, el señor Abrego García está legalmente en los Estados Unidos.
In fact, an immigration judge found years ago that it would put his life in danger if he was returned to El Salvador.
De hecho, un juez de inmigración encontró hace varios años que su vida estaría en peligro si él retornara de nuevo a El Salvador.
And so he was given protective status and a work permit.
Entonces se le dio a él un estatus de refugiado y también para poder trabajar en los Estados Unidos.
And by the way, that was done during the last Trump administration, the last time President Trump was in office, and they never appealed that decision.
Y todo esto sucedió cuando el presidente Trump era presidente anteriormente y nunca apelaron a esta decisión.
So I want to emphasize that President Trump and our Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Vice President of the United States are lying when they say that Abrego Garcia has been charged with a crime or is part of MS-13. That is a lie.
Así que quiero hacer constar que tanto el presidente como el vicepresidente están mintiendo cuando dicen que Abrego García ha sido acusado de ser miembro de la.
And this is a lie to cover up what they did. So what did they do?
Y esta es una mentira para poder cubrir lo que ellos hicieron. ¿Y qué es lo que ellos hicieron?
So they illegally abducted Mr. Abrego Garcia from Maryland and sent him to CICA, which is a notorious prison here in El Salvador.
Ellos lo que hicieron fue extraer al señor Abrego García de Maryland, en los Estados Unidos, y lo trasladaron a Cuba, que es una prisión.
In fact, it's a prison where they say they send the worst of the worst, right? That's where they send the terrorists. Now, the courts of the United States have said there's no evidence to support the charge that he's part of MS-13. So I asked the vice president whether or not El Salvador has any evidence that he's part of MS-13 or has committed a crime.
Así que en las cortes de los Estados Unidos no existe ninguna evidencia que diga que el señor Abrego García fue miembro de la MS-13. Así que la pregunta que le hice yo esta mañana al vicepresidente Ulloa es si El Salvador tiene pruebas de que el señor Abrego García sí es miembro de la MS-13.
So I asked the vice president if Abrego Garcia has not committed a crime and the U.S. courts have found that he was illegally taken from the United States, and the government of El Salvador has no evidence that he was part of MS-13. Why is El Salvador continuing to hold him in CICA?
Entonces, si no hay pruebas contra el señor Abrego García de que entró ilegalmente a los Estados Unidos o que él sea miembro de la MS-13, porque en las cortes de los Estados Unidos no hay evidencia, entonces, ¿por qué es que lo liberan?
And his answer was that the Trump administration is paying El Salvador, the government of El Salvador, to keep him at CICA.
Y su respuesta fue que el gobierno de El Salvador le está pagando. El gobierno de El Salvador está recibiendo un pago por mantener al señor Abrego García en El Salvador.
And I pointed out that neither the government of El Salvador nor the Trump administration has presented evidence to support the claim that he's committed any kind of criminal acts.
Entonces yo le dije que ni el gobierno de los Estados Unidos ni El Salvador ha presentado ninguna prueba de que el señor Abrego García ha cometido algún hecho ilegal.
And so why not release Abrego Garcia today?
Y entonces, ¿por qué no liberar al señor Abrego García hoy mismo?
And he said what President Bukele said the other day at the White House, which that El Salvador can't smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States.
El Salvador no puede contrabandear al señor Abrego García de nuevo hacia los Estados Unidos.
And I said, I'm not asking him to smuggle Mr. Abrego Garcia into the United States. I'm simply asking him to open the door of CICAT and let this innocent man walk out.
Yo le dije que yo no le estoy pidiendo que él entre ilegalmente al señor Abrego García a los Estados Unidos, sino que sencillamente que abra la puerta del CEPOT para que él pueda salir.
And I pointed out that the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, has said that the United States would send a plane to El Salvador to pick him up.
Yo le dije que incluso el señor Bondi, que es el fiscal general de los Estados Unidos, dijo que enviaría un avión para recoger al señor Abrego.
And why did she do that? Because the Supreme Court of the United States, in a ruling of 9-0, has said that the Trump administration has to facilitate his return to the United States.
Y eso lo dijo porque en la Corte Suprema de los Estados Unidos se tiene que facilitar el regreso al señor Abrego García a los Estados Unidos.
Now, there's no evidence that the Trump administration is complying with that order.
Pero no hay evidencia que la administración
There's no evidence that they're complying with that order. In fact, the United States Embassy here has told me they've received no direction from the Trump administration to help facilitate his release. So the Trump administration is clearly in violation of American court orders.
Así que claramente la administración de los Estados Unidos está en franco incumplimiento con las órdenes de los Estados Unidos.
But that still leaves the question, why is the government of El Salvador continuing to imprison a man where they have no evidence he's committed any crime and they've not been provided any evidence from the United States that he's committed a crime?
Y entonces la pregunta que resta por preguntar es por qué entonces el gobierno de El Salvador no cuando no hay pruebas que lo incriminen.
So they should just let him go.
Entonces deberían liberarlo, dejarlo ir.
And they should let him go, and we will find a way to get him from San Salvador to Maryland, the state of Maryland.
Deben de dejarlo ir y nosotros encontraremos una manera de hacerlo llegar desde El Salvador.
Because I promised his wife Jennifer,
Porque
and
yo le prometí a su esposa Jennifer,
and his mother and his brother
a su madre y a su hermano,
and their family,
y a
because
toda la familia,
he has 3 children.
porque él tiene 3 hijos.
Some of them have severe disabilities.
Algunos de ellos con algunos problemas.
I promised them that I would do everything I could to get him out of CCOT.
Y yo les prometí a ellos que iba a hacer todo lo que estuviera en mis manos para sacarlos del sector.
And I won't stop trying, and I can assure the president, the vice president, that I may be the first United States senator to visit El Salvador on this issue, but there will be more, and there will be more members of Congress coming.
Yo les he dicho a El Salvador que tal vez soy el primer senador que ha venido para tratar este asunto, pero puedo asegurarles que no se van a venir muchísimos.
This is an unsustainable and unjust moment, so it cannot continue this way.
Este es un momento que no es sostenible, no puede continuar de esta manera.
I also told his wife and family that I would try to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia while I was here.
También les prometí a su esposa y a su madre que iba a tratar de reunirme con el señor Abrego García mientras él estuviera aquí en el país.
So I asked the vice president if I could meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Así que le pregunté al señor vicepresidente si yo podía reunirme con el señor Abrego García.
And he said, well, you need to make earlier provisions to go visit CCOT.
Y él me dijo que había que hacer ciertos arreglos previos para poder entrar a su.
I said, I'm not interested at this moment in taking a tour of CCOT. I just want to meet with Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Y yo le contesté que yo no estaba interesado en tomar un dar una vuelta, yo quería era tener una reunión con el señor Abrego García.
He said he was not able to make that happen.
Y él me dijo que no estaba dentro de sus posibilidades hacer que eso sucediera.
I asked, he said he need a little more time.
Me dijo que necesitaba más tiempo.
I asked him if I came back next week, whether I'd be able to see Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Yo le pregunté que si regreso la próxima semana, si entonces sí voy a poder hablar con el señor Abrego García.
He said he couldn't promise that either.
Y me dijo que eso tampoco lo podía prometer.
So I asked him if I could get on the phone, either a video phone or just a phone, and talk to Mr. Abrego Garcia.
Entonces yo le pregunté que si podía hacerle una llamada telefónica, ya fuera una videollamada o por teléfono con el señor Abrego García.
So I could just ask him how he's doing so I could report back to his family.
Solamente para saber cómo está y poder reportar nuevamente cómo estaba a su familia.
He said he could not arrange that.
Y me dijo que no podía hacer arreglos para eso.
He said maybe if the American embassy were to ask, maybe that could happen.
Me dijo que si tal vez la embajada americana lo pidiera, tal vez entonces podría suceder.
So I will certainly ask the American embassy to ask the government of El Salvador to connect us by phone.
Así que ciertamente yo voy a hacer a la embajada de los Estados Unidos para ver si puedo hablar con él por teléfono.
I asked him how about his family? How can he talk to his wife so that she can hear his voice?
Y también hice la pregunta de que qué puede hacer la familia familia, tu esposa, para poder hablar y que ella escuche tu voz.
I let him know that the family has requested that.
Y le dije que la familia ha solicitado eso.
He said he was not sure whether he could make that happen.
Y me dijo que no estaba seguro de poder hacer eso.
So we have an unjust situation here. The Trump administration is lying about Abrego Garcia. The American courts have looked at the facts. In fact, the Trump administration lawyer, the government lawyer, admitted to the court that Mr. Abrego Garcia had been mistakenly taken in administrative error, that it was a mistake. But instead of fixing the problem and addressing that injustice, do you know what the Trump administration did? They put that lawyer, who's a 15-year veteran of the Department of Justice, on administrative leave. And berated that lawyer who told the truth to the judge. So I want to just close by reading you what the judge said. This is a federal district court judge, the District of Maryland. And I'm quoting from Judge Zinnes here. As defendants acknowledge, and the defendants here are the government, or the Trump administration, they had no legal authority to arrest him, no justification to detain him, and no grounds to send him to El Salvador, let alone deliver him into one of the most dangerous prisons in the Western Hemisphere. The judge went on to say, and I quote, having confessed grievous error, the defendants, and again, that's the government, that's the Trump administration, having confessed grievous error, they now argue that this court lacks the power to hear the case. And that they lack the power, the court lacks the power to order Abrego Garcia's return. So a U.S. district court judge has ordered the Trump administration to bring him home. The United States Supreme Court, by 9-0 vote, has ordered the administration to facilitate his return. So the Trump administration needs to obey the law. But I'm also asking the government of El Salvador and the president and vice president of El Salvador not to keep a man who was illegally abducted from the United States and charged with no crime to remain in CCOT, when as a sovereign country, they have the power to let him go and let him go now. And I hope they will. Thank you.
Are you concerned whether Mr. Abrego Garcia is still alive?
I don't know about his health status. That's exactly why I wanted to meet with him directly. That's why I wanted to talk to him on the phone. That's why I want to arrange a phone call with his wife. I mean, this is a notorious prison, and the family. This is a guy again. He just got disappeared off the streets of Maryland. He ends up in. I'm sorry.
Es por eso que yo estoy pidiendo que necesito verlo, necesito hablar con él, porque no sabemos cuál es la condición de Abrego García. Sencillamente desapareció de la cárcel.
This is why I wanted to see him. I also want to say to everybody here, you may know, in the state of Maryland, we have a very wonderful, robust Salvadorian population, and they contribute greatly to our state.
Senador, es una afrenta del gobierno de Bukele al sistema de justicia de Estados Unidos.
No le oigo cuando yo estoy hablando, no puedo oír. ¿Su pregunta cuál es?
Es que si es una afrenta del gobierno de Bukele al sistema
Is
de
it
justicia
a
de Estados Unidos.
confrontation from the Bukele administration to the United States of America?
Well, I'm asking President Bukele to. Okay, I'm asking President Bukele under his authority as president of El Salvador to do the right thing and allow Mr. Abrego Garcia to walk out of a prison, a man who's charged with no crime, convicted of no crime, and who was illegally abducted from the United States.
Es por eso que yo le estoy haciendo la petición al presidente Bukele para que suelte al señor Abrego García, que no fue acusado de ningún crimen.
Do you maintain any hope that you'll be able to meet with Kilmar?
I'm going to keep pressing. You want to?
¿Tiene esperanza de permitan ver al señor Abrego García?
I will keep pressing in my remaining time here, and I will keep pressing beyond that if necessary.
Última pregunta, por favor, última pregunta.
Gestiones después de la reunión que tuvo con el vicepresidente Ulloa va a generar otras gestiones o qué otra estrategia puede desde el Congreso puede generar usted para reunirse y para garantizar las condiciones del señor Kilmar Garcia.
What other strategy do you think that you can undertake, or what other activity are you going to undertake to make sure you know that you can have the release of Mr. Abrego Garcia?
Well, I will say that as a member of Congress, we'd like to work to have good relations between, the people of the United States and the people of El Salvador. And
Congresista de los Estados Unidos quisiera decirles que nosotros siempre abogamos por tener unas buenas relaciones.
Just on the live stream, the question was, what more can Congress do?
And that's why we need to make sure that we keep working to secure justice, because Congress has a very important role to play in the relationship between the United States and the people of El Salvador.
Por eso siempre tenemos que trabajar muy duro para que se haga justicia. El Congreso tiene mucho que ver con las relaciones entre los Estados Unidos y El Salvador.
And so, for example, the Trump administration is reportedly going to pay the government of El Salvador up to $15 million to house people sent from the United States. 15 million.
Se ha sabido que el gobierno de El Salvador va a recibir hasta 15 millones de dólares por darle albergue a.
And, I don't think there are going to be a lot of members of Congress that will clearly be unwilling to spend money to keep people like Kilmar Garcia in CCOT, because, again, he was illegally abducted from the United States and charged with no crime. So why? So why should the taxpayers of the United States pay the government of El Salvador to lock up a man who was illegally abducted from the United States and committed no crime? Thank you all very much. Gracias.
Muchas
And have
gracias.
a-
Con eso finalizamos.